everybody. Welcome to a special Book Passage annual event. Well, the second annual event. I'm your host, Paula Farmer. In celebration of Pride Month 2022, Book Passage is proud to uplift LGBTQ voices and stories with a special mini-series within the Conversations with Authors programming. This 3-night mini-series will feature emerging authors and established authors on the literary landscape, discussing their writings, the importance of queer literature and stories, both fiction and nonfiction, as well as issues within the community. Whether you are part of the LGBTQ community or an ally or just here to learn and be open, this event series is for you and you are welcome. We appreciate your participation and support, whether you're live or later in the recordings. If you are live, as in joining us live, not a live, but if you are, we have a chat section, and in that you can put comments and questions. I promise we'll get to them a little bit closer towards the end of the event, but first we want our authors to be in conversation. Our featured book, Right Where I Left You, behind me, is exactly the type of book, exactly what is recommended for summer. It's fun, friends becoming lovers, romance between two wonderfully drawn main characters, Isaac and Diego. Author Julian Winters weaves in racially and queer diverse cast with joyful tone throughout. Julian Winters is a best-selling and award-winning author of contemporary young adult fiction. His other novels received accolades for their positive depiction of diverse and relatable characters. Julian is joining us from Georgia, not far from Atlanta. Julian's conversation partner is Adib Khorram. Adib is a queer Iranian-American author who was born and raised in Kansas City. His first novel, Darius the Great Is Not Okay, won the YLSA's William C. Morris Award for Best Debut Author Writing for Teens. Wow. His latest book, released just a few months ago, called Kiss and Tell, is a smart, sexy YA novel about a boy band star, his first breakup, his rebound, and what it means to be queer in the public eye. With that, I'm going to leave it in Adib's capable hands. Thank you to both of you.
Thank you so much, Paula. Thank you to Book Passage, and it's a tall order to describe me as capable of anything except for chaos, but we'll see how it goes. Julian, how are you doing?
Already, I'm so glad I had my mic muted and that whole thing. I'm just, yeah. I'm good.
No more muting.
No more muting.
Let the laughter flow. We have to entertain the people.
We're good. Other than like the ridiculous heat in Atlanta, I am doing okay. How are you?
I'm also hanging in there. The heat is ridiculous here too. It was like 97 degrees yesterday. Thankfully it dropped down to like 85 because we had a nice thunderstorm. So yeah, I'm hanging in there. Happy Pride, by the way.
Happy Pride to you too. I feel like we haven't had a chance to like say that to each other and like celebrate. We've just been like working.
Yeah, it's mostly been how many words did you write today?
Right? Well, that's time to celebrate in these times.
I know, right? I feel like we're always as authors living months or years out. And so like we had our Pride books in March. Like
yes. Exactly.
I know, right? Which is an amazing, almost organic segue into talking about your amazing book, Right Where I Left You. I know you're probably tired of people asking this, but I don't know if the people from YouTube are that familiar with you. So why don't you tell us a tiny bit about Right Where I Left You?
I don't know if I'm tired of people asking it, more so I have yet, but I'm going to go through it. Or go for it, I'm sorry. So Right Where I Left You is about a queer Black Mexican boy by the name of Isaac Martin, who is in that in-between of high school ending and college beginning. And so he kind of creates this almost like small bucket list of things that he wants to do with his best friend before he heads off to college in the fall. Two of those very important things are to go to their first team pride together and to go to this epic comic book convention called Legends Cons to see Isaac's favorite comic book and writer and artist, and Diego is a gamer and he wants to meet his like gaming idol. But on the day that Isaac is in charge of buying tickets, he runs into his crush and all of a sudden forgets to get the tickets. And so now his summer plans have changed because he's decided he's going to pursue his crush in order to go after this great love story that's kind of always wanted for himself, but it's never seen in like media and comics and whatnot, while also trying to mend things with Diego. And they kind of go south when things really start to get tense between him and Diego. And Isaac eventually finds out that looking for love sometimes is right in front of you.
Or indeed, right where he left it.
Right where he left it, exactly.
I mean, better than looking for it in all the wrong places, which I think someone might have written a thing or two about.
I think yours, though, is very, I don't know, I guess it speaks very much to me and the ways that I have pursued romance in my time, especially as a teen.
Oh my goodness, I was too busy pursuing theater greatness to pursue romance when I was in high school. Well, Teen Pride is like such an important part of Right Where I Left You, and we are celebrating Pride right now. Can you tell me a little bit about your experience or experiences with Pride, whether that be the month, or whether that be events, or whether that's just like your Pride as a queer person?
Wow.
Broad topic.
Yeah, yes, that it is. I guess I'm gonna run with all of that. My experiences with Pride, I didn't go to my first Pride till I was in my early 20s. And because I hadn't found my community yet in Atlanta. High school was rough. I got out of high school and people found me, thankfully. And two friends, like they dragged me, we're doing this, we're going to our first Pride together. And it was the most amazing experience for me to finally be around like my community, my people, to feel safe, to feel authentic. It was the first time I dressed the way I wanted to dress. I didn't code switch. I didn't do anything to to make myself fit what other people expected me to be like. And it truly was liberating. And I'll never forget that. And since then, Atlanta, because we're so hot in the summer, we've moved our Pride celebration to October. So I try to go every October just to be around that sense of community. Yes.
I wish they would do that in Kansas City.
It's
so hot. I don't want to.
Yes, exactly.
I don't want to go sweat and then be seen by a bunch of gay men. Like,
right.
Like, look at me in the fall when the lighting is nice. Like,
right. I don't want you to see these pit stains. It's okay. And that's the great part here in Atlanta, though, is that I can attend Pride and I can celebrate in June. I can attend like the events in October, and then there's Black Pride in Labor Day weekend. So it's like I get like Pride like 3 months out of the year or something. And it's such a great thing, and that's why I incorporated that into the book, because I remember what that was like for me. And I want people to understand that yes, there are tougher parts of being out there and trying to find your community, trying to find your people, but there are moments where you just feel this ridiculous amount of joy just knowing you are being your most authentic self around people who just see you as you. So I went into it just knowing I had to have that in there.
Well, I love it. I think that's amazing. Let's talk more about Isaac in particular. This is a book that, in addition to celebrating queerness and all the many forms it takes, also celebrates nerdery or geekery, depending on your persuasion. Can you tell me something about your own relationship to kind of nerdy things and why it excited you to incorporate that into Isaac?
I've always been as far back as I remember, a very nerdy or very geeky person. I want to thank my father for that because he raised me on Star Trek and Star Wars, and like, even though I was too young to be watching the Alien movies, like all these different sci-fi things. Yeah,
those are scary.
Yeah, scary. Introduced me to some things I probably should have been watching as a kid. But like I grew up in that kind of like that sci-fi kind of thing, and then that kind of led over into reading comic books, especially growing up where a lot of literature in school that I was assigned to read wasn't too kind to their BIPOC characters or their queer characters. So I turned to comic books to like really absorb myself in reading and whatnot. So that like became a huge thing for me. And I wanted to incorporate that into this book, especially because the inspiration for the book came from when I went to go see Black Panther in theaters, back when we could do the theater thing without worries. Black Panther and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse in theaters. I just remember crying during both movies, not because like they obviously had sad moments, but it was just that realization that that's me. That's what I've always wanted to see on the big screen for like hundreds of people to see. And then when the lights came up, looking around and seeing other people crying and like dabbing their face and whatnot, and then just seeing the pure excitement and exhilaration in the younger viewers' faces, like the teens and the smaller kids. That's what like that sparked the idea to write Where I Left You, because that kind of representation means the world to them, to finally see themselves in media, to finally have other people see them and them getting to be the hero. And that's what I wanted to incorporate it into Right Where I Left You. And I leaned so hard into that geekiness because I love reading or seeing things that involve like geekiness and whatnot. My exposure to that never really had showed BIPOC people being nerdy and being geeky and whatnot. And I wanted to do that. I wanted to like really lean into that and show that, yeah, this whole other side of us that exists out there and sometimes is not often shown through media, as joyful as we are in those spaces.
I love it. Speaking of like comic books, I feel like queer folks are really winning in the comic space right now. Like Wiccan and Hulkling are like the king of space and is like wizard consort.
Yes.
DC now has a bunch of bisexual basic white boys. Speaking of which, John, are you team John Kent or team Tim Drake? Like which of those white bread bisexual boys are you most?
This is interesting. Well, I'm team John Kent only because there is more. Like Tim has just come out, and so like the access to like I did read the Pride special, but there's just more.
That's the one with the cake smashing.
With the what?
The smashed cake.
No, that one's in the actual like DC Pride collection, but then there's a separate like collection just specifically for Tim Drake that kind of shows the background of how he came out and whatnot. But I'm like Team John. I think they're doing a lot of great things in that comic and talking about like climate change and talking about who gets to be the hero and the ways that we see people and the things that we hide from people and whatnot. So I'm only because there is more, but I'd love to see, like that family really go in hard on that, on Tim's storyline.
Fair. I don't really care about DC at all, but also like all these new queer stories make me want to care about it, but then I remember that DC is boring and I never will.
You have to, but they have, yeah, you're right. But they at least they have Aquaman, they have Jackson Hyde or Calderon.
I know, right?
So there's that. I'm sad to say there's that.
They have great queer casts, and I feel like in some ways they're doing more exciting things than Marvel is right now. Yeah. I think maybe after Marvel got acquired by Disney, they just feel a lot tamer just across the board.
Yeah, I just finished the Marvel Pride, and then when I'm comparing the two, the DC one definitely does a lot more for their characters than the Marvel one does. But
I don't know. Maybe they'll get their act together and be like, "Oh, that's right, Pride is a protest."
Right? Yes.
All right. Well, speaking of messy bisexuals, I would love to talk to you some about Diego. Two things. One, he is a gamer. which I love because I love games. But I feel like you're not much of a gamer from my recollections of our conversations. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. And I'd like to thank my brother for that because he is still a gamer and he was so competitive when we were growing up. It made
it spoiled it.
It ruined it for me. Yeah.
Well, I would love for you to talk about how you crafted Diego, and then I would love you to talk more broadly. Like best friends to lovers is something that you've returned to quite a few times in your books, and I'm really curious what intrigues you so much about that particular relationship arc.
Yeah. So Diego, Diego. He was such a fun character, right? I'm not gonna lie. Like sometimes you get so inside your main character's head that you're just like, I need a break. You're too much for me. And Diego was my break, as messy as he was, and as like stubborn and difficult as he was at times. He was so much fun to write. Being able to write someone who is kind of like in that space where he's like, I'm chasing my dream, but it's like defying what my parents expect of me. And it's kind of going against what the world sets as the tone, as the things that you're supposed to do in life. And I loved being able to write that because I feel like in a lot of ways when I was that age, I wanted to go the path Diego went, but I was too scared. Like this is breaking all kinds of rules, and you can't do that. Especially, which is something I talk about in the book. Especially when you're a BIPOC person, where it's like literally you have to be the best of the best at all times. Like you have to follow a certain path in order to succeed, at least here in America. And so it was just a lot of fun to write, to kind of go against the grain and go against those rules. Writing from the gamer perspective, I will admit was hard. I asked a lot of questions to like Ashley posted. I'm gonna secretly admit that I would like follow like you and other people's conversations around games on Twitter, and I just like make notes. Oh, okay. Okay. About what's like interesting and what people like and whatnot. So this little hint for you fellow writers, a little sleuthing out there when you're on the Twitter space. And the best friends and lovers thing, you're right. I do tend to return to that. It is a comfortable space for me. One, because I grew up, like all of my crushes started with friendship. Because I felt like as a closeted queer teen, as a closeted queer young adult, that's where I felt my most safe. Like once I came out to those people, those people made me feel safe. They made me feel protected. They made me feel like I could always be myself. And eventually that turned either romantic and then right back to platonic. I'm a messy way that way too. But I think that's also why I like writing it, because I love giving characters the spaces where they feel safe, where they feel welcomed, where they feel like they can just be themselves, flaws and all, and how that can develop into different things, how it can develop to stronger bonds, how it can develop to people that you can connect with and call on different times. And sometimes it does turn romantic. Sometimes that's where you get to experience your first realizations of what it's like to have feelings for someone, and to explore that in a safe way. So I think that's why I always lean towards friends to lovers. And then it just really fit for the story I want to tell with Right Where I Left You also, which is being within a community of people that you know, and they help you open up and be like your most natural self.
That's fair. I'm just trying to think of like my own experiences with like crushing, and I don't think I ever crushed on any of my friends. I think it was always like the random straight boy who was nice to me once, and I was like, oh, we're getting married someday, which I think is probably just queer baiting for any straight man to be nice to a gay man. Like, I mean, say that no, straight men, be good allies, be nice to people.
As someone who worked in video store, it's not your fault
if we take it as flirting. When you just decide to be a decent human being, continue being a decent human being regardless.
Oh gosh.
But yeah, like gosh, anytime a straight boy that was nice to me in high school, I was just a goner.
I'm the same. I worked at a video store, and anytime they came in and they had their videotape rewound, I was like, oh, you're the one.
Yeah, you just start planning the wedding right away.
Right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, being a teenager is so exciting and also messy.
Messy.
Speaking of mess, I was so fascinated with Isaac's family dynamics, which did seem both full of love from his mom and abuelito and his sister, and also full of mess with his older brother, and especially with like a lot of unresolved feelings about his father. And one of the things I loved is how much you leaned into that mess. You didn't really ever tie anything up in a neat bow. You just were like, yeah, sometimes it sucks and you don't know what to do, and you just have a lot of big feelings and you have to feel them. What made you want to explore that?
This book, I want to say is closest to some of the feelings or some of the tension I have with my own family at times. And I was just like, you know what, you need to do this, because I think through previous books, I've tried to make the family like this very supportive, like safety net for the main character. And not to say it's like you said, not to say for this one, it's not the same, because Isaac very much has Abuelito and he has his mom and he has Bella and whatnot to fall back on. But they all still, even the people he falls back on, he still has a tense relationship with in different ways. And I felt like it was time for me to finally like, okay, let's create that messy family. Let's create that dynamic where the tension sometimes overrides everything else, all the good that's happening around them, because it's just not being talked about. Or if it is being talked about, Isaac is like avoiding it in all ways possible. I think it's important to show that, because even in your highest moments, even in your greatest joys, there are going to be complicated parts of your life, especially when it comes to family, because I think like this was one of the places where you can love so hard sometimes that you forget that like people are complicated. People are very capable of making mistakes and not knowing how to own up to those mistakes. And I put it in Isaac's hands on whether he was going to accept these things or accept apologies or accept that these are the way things are going to be, or if he's going to take his own kind of path, especially with his dad, which like the first two drafts of the book, like none of that got resolved whatsoever. Like it was just like, okay, and this is how Isaac's going to go through the rest of his life. But I kind of, recognize that sometimes we can forgive and not necessarily have to like arms wide open, taking someone back into your life. You can forgive and still move along, like in your own different like lanes of existence.
I always like to think of forgiving as like a personal letting go of like letting go of that person having power over you. It doesn't mean you have to forget what they did. Right. That's why I believe in forgive and remember. Yeah, it doesn't mean you have to let them back into your life. But I think it's a great like laying down of the burden of like unhappiness that can sometimes come with it.
Yes. Can I turn the tide on you though? Because yes, because
laser fields. Rainbows.
No, we have to talk about this, because I think like one of the inspiration going into this book was definitely after reading something like Darius, The Great is Not Okay, and Darius the Great Deserves Better, and seeing how complicated family relationships can be, and done in a way that isn't necessary. It's not like harmful. It's just a part of reality, and you don't walk away feeling like, oh my gosh, like I hate this person and their life and whatnot. You just walk away understanding that people are different and people are complicated, and we have these different layers. So can you talk a little bit about what it was like writing that family down, especially between Darius and his father, but also heading into the second book and Darius and the rest of his family?
Oof. Well, I was not prepared to talk about me. So
sorry.
This is homophobia during Pride Month.
During Pride.
I would say there's a certain philosophy that I think came from my parents' generation, especially among diaspora and immigrant communities, that parents don't owe their children apologies or explanations or anything. And thankfully, I don't think my parents subscribe to that. Like I can definitely remember both my parents apologizing to me at times. That said, looking back, I think they could have done it more, and it would have led to healthier relationships. And so I really wanted to explore what it would be like to have parents that actively apologize, actively treat their kids as actual human beings. And that doesn't mean they don't mess up. And that doesn't mean they always get it right. But I think, I feel like I've said this before, but I always feel like our jobs as writers is to balance the world as it is with the world as it could be. And I really am pretty intentional about showing young readers like what they deserve from the adults in their life, which is empathy, which is owning mistakes and apologizing. And also taking a moment to show, when you're a teenager, I hope this doesn't sound condescending because I love teenagers. I think they're incredible and they're going to change the world. But just scientifically speaking, their brains are still developing. And one of the hallmarks of being a teenager is responding more to like your internal perception of a behavior than like what's actually going on, because like you just don't have as much context as like a 40-year-old does. And so showing how, a character, a young person's perceptions of what their parents are doing and why their parent is doing it can be radically different from what's actually going on. And so how communication can help resolve that and being open to it. But at the same time, the communication, I think, has to come from a parent, I think, or just an adult in general. I think so often, as adults, I don't have any kids, but as parents as well, you often see parents being like, is there anything you want to talk about, or come to me if you have any questions? And it's like, no teenager is ever going to go and talk to you about something awkward. I think it's important as adults that we assume the onus of being awkward, because we're the ones that are old enough to deal with the cringe. And so like we should be the cringy ones and let the kids let them off the hook. So yeah, I think I just rambled a ton. This is what you get for doing that to me when I was completely unprepared.
I know. I love, that is, you said it so well in a way that I was trying or wishing I could say. Was definitely, especially when you said about as writers, our job is to show the world as it is, but also what it could be if we all actively work towards, certain things. And so, no, I think you did a great job. You weren't rambling.
Well, thank you. Well, we're going to focus on you. We're going to put the focus on you where it belongs.
Okay.
You monster. How dare you? I even had a great segue cooked up and you've just ruined my segue, but we're going to pretend it's fine. Just careened right off a cliff.
Oh my gosh. That's how we roll.
Segue literally did like roll off a cliff once. Maybe that was from a movie though. Oh, maybe that was Arrested Development.
Oh my gosh.
Gosh, Job and his segue. Anyway. Or whether we talk, okay. One of the things that I love about your books, and you do this so well and so often, and it's absolutely infuriating to me, is you make these beautiful ensembles full of, a wonderful cast of queer characters. And they always feel fresh. They always feel like real people. It doesn't feel like you're just like rehashing the same 4 archetypes and like reusing them. Like they always feel different.
Thank you.
And I would love to know, like how you go about crafting them. Like, what's your research process like, and what's your kind of character creation and ideation process like? Because I'm really, every time I try an ensemble, I fail.
I disagree, but I know you'll fight me on this, but I disagree.
I think Kiss and Tell is the closest I've come to having an ensemble, but even so, like the other 4 boys aren't nearly as not nearly as fleshed out or distinct as I think.
Again, disagree, but that's fine.
Okay, that's fine. We always see our own work through a mirror darkly, whatever.
Exactly.
It's fine. We're here to talk about you, not me.
How do I so my process, it just feels like it's getting weirder and weirder with each book. That's
perfect.
But yeah, it really is. It really is fascinating to me how you think after each book, it's like, okay, it's going to get easier, or I'm gonna have like this established way of attacking this, and I'm gonna get it right, and I never do. So with every book, I don't know, these characters, they kind of just come to me in a way. I guess maybe because I feel like in my life, I've never, like I have a core group of friends, and then I'm like that Twitter circle where it's got like all the like different like faces, and mine just goes on and on for like pages. So as far as like crafting these like ensemble casts that I have, I kind of think I do the whole like, what does my main character need kind of thing, like who do they need in their life? Who is going to make this kind of difference? And then also, how are they going to affect them? Because you know me, I like to overdo everything. So I'm always just like,
I may have noticed this about you.
If you've never seen behind the scenes Julian Winters and Adib Khorram, just know that Julian overdoes everything.
Every
and Adib always has the answer.
Is a Rube Goldberg machine. It's amazing.
Really is just too many moving parts. But so I think about, what's the main character need, but I also just think about like who would I see walking into a Starbucks? Who would I see walking into a supermarket? Mm-hmm. Like, I don't live in a community that's just like so homogenized that you just see like one type of person, or and I also don't look like just a physical level. I think about like emotional and mental and all these different things that make up people. And I try to with each book look at, okay, how can I thoughtfully put this character into my main character's life, and what's the difference that they're going to make for each other? I never want a character just to be there, as someone who grew up watching a lot of movies where like the Black character was just the best friend or the comedic relief. I never like going into stories thinking, okay, and this is just going to be the comedic relief, and this is just going to be sad boy over here or something like that. I always think thoughtfully, okay, who are these people, and what kind of story do I want to tell with them, and who do I want to be seen in this element, and kind of goes from there each time. It's fascinating to me because I always think, okay, this is going to be this type of character, but the more the story develops, like with Right Where Left You, I think like the character Alex really was there to be like Isaac's arch nemesis, and that was it. And the more like I wrote of the book, the more I realized she's not that. She is very much has similar things to that Isaac has, but they can't see these things because they're too busy just like trading these barbs all the time and just like ripping at each other. And so I think the fascinating part for me is how each character develops as I'm writing, and the story that's getting told. And as far as research, literally sitting in coffee shops and just watching people, and like kind of like trying to remove that bias that when I see them walk in, oh, this is the type of person. Actually just like watching, how people interact and the different things that they look at and different things that they care about, and what their focus is. And that kind of helps me, along the way.
Well, I think you consistently imbue characters with such humanity, and I am always impressed and insanely jealous.
As you should not.
So speaking of ensembles, your next book, As You Walk On By, it recently had a beautiful cover revealed, which you should definitely go online and check. But like now that it's like slightly more public knowledge, like you can actually talk about it.
I can.
So I would love for you to tell the people what they have to look forward to in the next Julian Winters book.
Yeah. Okay. So the next one, I've become that weird author because this, I promise y'all, this book literally came to me. I took a nap, and like I dreamed it, and it came to me. Like I. Oh
my gosh! You Stephanie Meyers it.
I did this one book because this is never how it happens. This is my Twilight. Oh, I don't think I can turn this into like a series though. But As You Walk On By, I took the concept of if you mashed up The Breakfast Club and Can't Hardly Wait with a little bit of like the humor of Booksmart, what would that be like? And so in this book, it focuses on a main character named Theo. He is going to a house party because he has been dared to ask this boy out. He's there to ask him the prom. So he's supposed to be proposing in a way to this boy at a house party. But he's got all these other issues going on. He decides, okay, I just need a break from the party. And he sneaks upstairs to one of the unoccupied bedrooms. And slowly but surely throughout the night, other people pop up into the bedroom with him, and they've kind of like formed their own little like group escaping the party from their different issues. And it was a challenging book to write. I definitely have to thank you, Adib, and Natalie C. Parker, and Tessa Grad, and Judy Murphy, Sierra Simone for helping me untangle this book. But it's fun. I had so much fun writing it, but it also gives me a chance to talk about a lot of different topics. I want to talk about like what it's like if you are in a toxic friendship, and what it's like to be around people that you know you should call out or call in about certain topics, and you just keep on letting it go by. You keep on letting it slip. You keep on, letting them do wrong and what you should be doing instead. I talk about, friendships and what's like to apologize and all these different topics that I really wanted to talk about. And this book really set the scene for that. And so I'm excited about it because, again, it is super fun. But I think my editor said it. She was like, this is also like one of the best books you've written in terms of like diving deep into content and whatnot. So.
Well, yeah. I'm very excited to get to read it.
I cannot wait to send you my copy.
Hint.
I cannot wait till I have an art to send you.
I can't wait to read it. Well, as you are contributing to queer media, you're also consuming it. As you know, I introduced you to the wonders of the Untamed, and you got revenge on me by introducing me to Young Royals. So I'm really curious, what queer media are you enjoying this Pride?
I also feel, but I still owe you because you introduced me to Word of Honor also, didn't you?
I did. To be fair, that might have been Tessa Grattan, but.
It might have been Tessa. Okay, so I owe Tessa. What am I consuming? Oh gosh, that's a great question. What did I watch recently? Well, I watched Fire Island and loved the mess out of that. I so
love
needed that.
I needed it twice already, and I'm going to watch it again soon. It just it was so good. It was so good.
So good. And I so needed that movie. So there's that. I'm trying to think because I've been putting off watching the last season of Love Victor because it is the last season, and I am like, I can't do it. So I have that.
I've also been putting that one off. Like, I can't wait to watch it.
But can't wait to watch it. But exactly. I watched Heartstopper and had fun watching that one. Oh gosh, I don't know. I've just really been. I honestly just been reading comic books, all the different Pride issues. I've been going on like the different like comic book wikis and seeing, because we're still at a point where there are not a lot of series starring queer characters, so I have to go look on the wikis to see, okay, which issue features them, so I can go like buy that issue, that one issue,
right,
just to get my
issue arc on some other title, or they get like a limited mini series.
Exactly. Marvel and DC, I am begging you to do better. So yeah, I've just mainly been doing that, and I've been looking forward to watching stuff, but I haven't been able to consume much anything. What about you though?
Me, well, again, Fire Island was amazing, and I have Crush queued up to watch. I watched the first 3 episodes of Obi-Wan, which I think is one of those things that's like, what's something that feels gay but is very straight, and I think Star Wars is one of the most aggressively no homo things in existence. But also I like watched 3 episodes and I think I've given up on it because I don't know, it just feels like it's about a sad, depressed man, and I already know what happened before and what's going to happen later. So I'm like, maybe I should watch Ms. Marvel instead.
Have you started watching that?
No, that's like my next thing.
We have to talk about that. Okay.
Fair. What else? I also watched something else that was very delightful and gay, and now I'm completely blanking on what it was, but I know it was on Netflix. Arcane. Arcane was very gay and lovely.
Oh, okay.
But also like weird in a way. I don't know. I don't want to say it was Uncanny Valley animation, but there were definitely times when the cartoons were doing things to each other that I don't want to see cartoons do. Like, it's just weird.
Okay.
But yeah, overall, I thought it was like great world building, really fascinating, and very gay, and so that was fun.
Okay, putting it on my list.
I know, right? And I'm excited to just find more amazing gay things. And I've been reading tons and tons of gay books. I say tons and tons. I've been reading like a gay book a week, and then staying up too late reading untamed fan fiction.
I love it.
But yeah. Well, with that, I would love to turn over to Paula, who is going to help us facilitate the questions from our amazing studio audience. Welcome back,
Yes.
Paula.
Hello.
Thank you. I almost hate to hear this conversation stop. I feel like I came in the middle of your living room, like a reunion of friends.
It's dangerous because we know each other a little too well, and so we just roast each other constantly.
And before I dive into the questions, I'm going to throw out something I rewatched recently. Because you guys were doing the TV series. I'm going to throw something out for film. And it was Call Me By Your Name. I don't want to know. I don't want to tell you how many times I've watched that movie. I love it. It's like one of those things I could watch every summer because it takes place in the summer in Italy. And we just have to set aside what we now know about one of the main characters in real life.
Yeah.
I've actually never seen that movie, and I'm probably never going to, because I find the age difference and the power imbalance very unsettling. And I find the author a little bit creepy. And then it turns out one of the actors is super creepy. And the other one is a bland twink. And I just can't.
Oh my God, you just totally crushed.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to yuck anyone's yum. I know people who just love it and like keep on loving it. I don't want to.
I hear you, because at the time when it first came out, I was kind of like, oh, are we not going to talk about the fact that one of them's a minor or something? You know.
Right. But like, it's not a minor when you're in Europe, but also like it's for an American. Anyway, I think if I had seen it before I knew all this stuff, I probably would have enjoyed it.
Right.
But it's one of those things where like I knew too much about it before, and so I'm like, and I can never. Yeah. Like it's always going to be in the back of my mind. You
can't unknow those things that you know now.
Right. Well, but I feel like if you see it first and then know, it's like a little easier. Like your brain has an easier time of just pushing it aside and being like, let me have this.
I'll let you have it. And I'm going to get into some of the audience questions. We've had some really good ones. Tom Ryan, who is I'm thrilled to see both of you. As he said, your shiny faces or smiling faces. But he says,
I powdered myself.
I don't know. It's as hot as it is, I probably am shiny.
Smiley, not shiny. No question, though, that queer YA fiction is under attack now in the literary world. How do you respond or react to that while maintaining your joy? And I'm assuming that Tom is kind of referring to banned books. A lot of them fall into queer categories and Black authors and Black characters and stories. So he's just saying, how do you kind of know that that's going on and that's concerning and unsettling, but maintain your joy to stay inspired and keep writing?
Well, I have rent to pay, so that's what keeps me going, because it is extremely disheartening, and the news is terrible. And to be honest, I'm not finding a ton of joy. I'm finding a ton of anxiety and fear for queer kids, and wondering if they're going to find my books. But in the meanwhile, I pay attention to my local school board and library board elections and donate money where I can, donate time where I can, and see my friends and disconnect for a while when I can, when it becomes too much.
Mm-hmm. Julian, do you have a reaction?
I'm on the same wavelength as Adib, as in, like, I do what I can, I speak when I can. When librarians and educators ask me to do things, I do my best to give as much time as possible to help out. But to be honest with you, it is super difficult for me to find that joy as a Black person, as a queer person, because I grew up without the stories that are on the shelves now. And I know how hard my childhood was. I know how hard my teen years were. I know how erased I felt. And I know how there are moments where I felt like I barely made it out of those years. And so it is super hard to constantly hear about books being banned, about people being told that their existence should be banned, just because of who they are. So I try to disconnect when I can, but the reality is it is always in my mind that there's someone out there who is not getting what they need, not only from the adults in their life, but from the things that they're given to read in school. And that is more dangerous than I think these people trying to ban books understand.
Yeah, no, all those are fantastic points. And actually,
now more than ever. Oh, sorry.
No. I was just going to say I hosted AJ Verdell, who wrote Miss Chloe about her friendship with Toni Morrison. And she put it in a context that I had never really thought of. She said, at the pace we're going, there could be a whole generation of students, children that don't even know someone like Toni Morrison, like who they are. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't think about it like that, like kind of erasing, as you're saying, Julian. And that kind of flows into a question I have for you, thinking in terms of, the educational concept of windows and mirrors, and seeing characters that you can empathize with, and then taking it a step further with mirrors and seeing characters that you really identify with. And I'm just wondering, for both of you, when did you have that kind of aha moment? Like, wow, whether it's BIPOC or queer or both, where you saw a character in a story in literature that really made you feel like, wow, that's me. I can really identify.
You were going to say something.
Oh, I was just going to say, not to backtrack, but, we often ask, what are queer authors, what are BIPOC authors doing to combat book bannings? Now is the time for allies to show up or shut up, because we're busy surviving, and now would be a great time for the people whose survival is not at stake to act as if it were and fight hard. Otherwise, like, why are you saying you're an ally? Other than just obviously wanting, to partake of the fruits of queer artistry. As far as like seeing myself, I think reading Simon versus a Homo sapiens Agenda for the first time was a really transformative experience for me. I had kind of just started taking my own first steps into writing about queer characters at the time. But I didn't know how honest I was allowed to be. And Simon is an incredibly honest character, and that book is an incredibly honest book. And it just, it was absolutely transformative for me.
For me, it was Dante and Aristotle, and Dante Discovers Secrets of the Universe. One, not only to see a BIPOC gay boy in a book that he fiercely loves his family. He fiercely loves aspects of his life and people in his life, but he also, like, he's allowed to cry, and he's also, he shows fear and he shows concern about his existence, and he's also so worried that who he is going to affect everyone else around him, instead of him worrying about loving and taking care of himself, kind of in that way. So that meant the world to me, and like Adib said, especially as a writer, because it felt like I had to write a certain type of queer character in order to tell the stories I'm going to tell. And that just showed me, no, I can write characters that are more relatable to me and exist in the same kind of space that I exist, and it still will be loved and cherished and talked about years later. So that was a character that really made a difference.
Great. Wonderful examples. We have a question from Linda, and she wants to know, Julian, do you plan to continue to write YA, or do you have plans or hopes to maybe do any kind of crossover with genre or ages? She was wondering about adult fiction book or maybe nonfiction like a memoir or something.
It's a great question. I have dabbled in outside of the age category of YA. We'll see if anything comes of that. But yes, I would love to write adult, especially in like romance or adult rom-com space. It's completely me and the kind of person that I am in real life. So I would love to do that. I'd love to dive into middle grade also, because when I was writing the story for the Black Boy Joy anthology, I was looking for examples of like middle grade voice and whatnot, specifically looking for middle grade novels that had queer Black boys. And I found one at that time. Fortunately now there are more and there are more coming, but at that time I could only find one. And so it is my passion to dive into that space and make sure that there are so many more on the shelves, because I think that is a very formative time in someone's life, and they need to know again, that they can be who they are and experience joy and experience magic and experience all these different things and be the hero. So yes, I do have plans. Nonfiction wise, I don't know, y'all. I don't know if I'm cut out for it. We'll see one day.
I hear you. So this one's for both of you, and it's from Julie. I know this is Julie who works with Book Passage. She wants to know, who are the authors that inspired you either personally and or in your writing? Like, do you have like favorite authors from the past or currently?
Always such a good question. I always feel like I am gonna forget somebody's name. So mine are definitely more current, which is Adib is one. Yes, Adib, I have to say it. I feel very fortunate that I get to read Adib's books in all different stages, because I feel like his brain is just so amazing. He doesn't give himself enough credit. It's fine. I love his stuff. And he definitely inspires me, because every time I read one of his books, it reminds me that, oh, you can write whatever you want and feel like no shame about it. And so I love Adib. Becky Albertalli is another one. Nick Stone, Leah Johnson. R. Thomas wrote a beautiful book called Kings of Be-More that I hope everyone picks up. It was such a delightful book. Those like my main ones right there, where it's just like every time I pick up something that they've written, I feel so inspired to keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah. For me, Jandy Nelson is someone that I often think of. I just think she is a truly masterful writer, and every time I return to her work, I come away just blown away by what you can do with words, and hoping someday I'll figure out how to do, a tenth of what she does. I also am glad I get to exist in a world where I get to read Julian's books. He inspires me to constantly try harder and be better and be bolder with what I do. You mentioned Nick Stone, who I think is just, kind of a beacon for our industry, not only for her writing, but for her advocacy. Same with Jason Reynolds, who I think is just, a really stand-up example of what writers could be doing. And Tessa Gratton, her mind it blows me away every time. It's very intimidating because she's so smart. And I was like, how can I channel a little bit of this smartness? And so anytime I kind of veer off of the contemporary path and explore things, outside of my normal wheelhouse, like I have a short story in a paranormal romance anthology that I think Julian is also in fact.
Yes.
But I immediately was like, Tessa, how does one do paranormal romance? So yeah, I think those are the ones that come to mind first. There are so many, and I just feel like I'm really lucky to have so many amazing peers to inspire me, and then occasionally get insanely jealous of. which is totally normal and healthy. Like, it's fine.
Yeah.
This business is a very messy on one's emotions.
Yeah. I'm sure it's kind of a back and forth with, they inspire you, and then there are those that make you feel like, why am I even doing this? Like, I can't.
All the time.
I will never
Kind
do
of
this.
like
Why bother? I
navigating-
should set myself on fire and throw myself into a dumpster to light the dumpster on fire.
Right. Yeah. No, because we love both of you, and this has been an amazing event because of both of you. Adib, you're a great moderator. May have to pull you in for some other stuff because you're so good. Yeah, well, you too, Julian.
Thank you for, we love Book Passage. Thank you so much for hosting.
No, thank you for helping make this a really special series. I've just had the honor to pull together and bring great authors together for these special conversations. I think you were a great combination of poignant and fun, right? Your conversation and the things that you were uplifting. So thank you for that. And thank you to our audience for being a part of it. Please keep in mind that this is the second installment of 3 for this mini series. And tomorrow, as in Wednesday, no, today's Wednesday, Thursday, the 23rd, right? We are going to be featuring this book, X, by Davy Davis. And I'm going to read how it's described by one critic as a combination of hard-boiled style meets dyke drama. I've never heard anything. So I think it's like mixing crime, like true crime, with kind of fantasy and mystery. It just sounds really interesting. I'm in the middle of binging it, so to speak, binge reading. But that will be tomorrow, Thursday, the same time, 5:30 Pacific time, 8:30 Eastern time. Please join us, watch it live, come in later, share this event with friends and family who maybe couldn't make it in person and live. Thank you to the both of you. We have right where I left you. We have that at both Book Passage locations, one in San Francisco and one in Corte Madera, but always feel free to order online or give a call for our booksellers. They're very enthused to sell you Julian's books as well as anybody else's books, because that's why they're there. But with that, thank you for joining. Thank you for supporting this event. Hit like and subscribe to this channel and come for more events like this. Thank you, Julian. Thank you, Adib. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.